Deep in the forests of North America, a creature is said to exist. A creature that people are encountering. With far too many reports to ignore, there are elements of truth behind these accounts that mankind can no longer ignore.
Breaking news out of Texas, Bigfoot is real.
Could a breeding population of large, upright, hairy hominids really exist in North America? If just one footprint, one wood knock, or one howl is real, then man's understanding of primate evolution would be changed forever. Join the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective as they delve further into the mysteries of Bigfoot and other paranormal phenomena through the eyes of witnesses, investigators, critics, and skeptics. Join us as we look to discover what lurks from behind tall trees. All right, here we go, boys and girls. Welcome to the live Super Chat. This is show number 1. First show here for the Bigfoot Super Chat, for a show that this show will care enough not to play any favorites. You know, we're going to give all parties a chance to speak up and present their sides of the stories, which in turn will allow you guys, the viewers or the listeners, a chance to make up an educated decision and see what you believe. You know, this show is going to look to stomp out confirmation bias and general Sasquatch stupidity in an action-packed hour. So without further ado, let's get this show number 1 started. My name is Brendan Brown. I am the founder and director of the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective, otherwise known as the CARC. I put this group together just about a year ago with some great guys, and let's get these guys out here. So, Sean, you there?
I am indeed here. Yes.
There he is, Sean. This is Sean Wagner. Sean was one of the first guys I met when we were putting this whole thing together. Right there, Sean?
Definitely, yes. Yeah, we had a minor. You had the great idea of us coming together and working towards doing this, as well as filming.
Yeah, we were going to, originally, I was looking at putting together a documentary film or a series on all things paranormal, paranormal study with, ghosts and hauntings and spirits and skinwalkers and UFOs and aliens. And then I got the idea to do some Bigfoot stuff. And as the people out there know, once Bigfoot's in the room, Bigfoot kind of takes over. A lot of time and a lot of effort. And we were going to do it with a different group. But it kind of fell through due to the lack of, I guess you would say, commitment on some people.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think that they're working on various things to try to make improvements. Certainly.
Well, we wish them good luck and Godspeed. And then another person we met there was good old Mike Lucci. Mike Lucci, the city kid, dude, the young guy in the group, the guy that can actually get out there deep in the woods and run around and has a better 440 time than Bigfoot.
What's going on, guys?
How's it going, Mike?
Hey, Mike.
What's going on, guys? Not bad. Great to get this started.
Yeah, Mike's going to be doing the Super Chat. He's going to be running the Super Chat tonight. And this is a Super Chat show. And so hit that button and support the channel. When you send in a message via the Super Chat, not only does it support the channel, it supports the show. And it's going to support us getting back out there when the snow melts. And we can do some more things to hunt down this big bitch Bigfoot.
Yeah, for sure. If anyone out there has any questions, comments, just post them in the chat, and I'll try to respond to them as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Yeah, we got one more guy out there, though, the big St. Bernard puppy of the group. Where is he? There he is.
Brendan, Sean, Mike, what's going on, guys?
By far the nicest guy in the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective. The guy that would give you the last buck out of his wallet, even if it meant stranding himself without any gas money. That would be Chuck Larson. Charlie, what's up, buddy?
Oh, hanging in, man. Thanks this is a great opportunity. I'm excited to be part of this, and let's get this going.
He's already thanking people, and we haven't even started. So this is show number one, and I think all four of us here for the first time, and we're a little nervous. You got to be. So we like I said, we were getting together. We were starting a production company, the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective, doing a documentary. We're actually right in the middle of doing a documentary series called Devil's Road, which is a kind of a Bigfoot documentary. I follow these guys around with a small film crew and try to collect some evidence. It's been done before. It's continued to be done, but we're trying to put our own little angle and our own little angle on the project. So we're super busy with that. I'm busy editing. These guys are working on finding some new spots and new locations for the spring. If you guys have any recommendations, shoot them to us. Let us know. You can email us at carcgroup@gmail.com. But we didn't really have a whole lot of time. But we're like, why the hell are we doing this, man? Why do a Super Chat podcast show? And I know Mike, I know you and Charlie were proponent to this long before Sean and I were. So Mike, we're here now. What do you hope to get out of this show?
Well, one of my biggest takeaways for it was whenever we're out in the field, out on our expeditions, I feel like we have some of our best conversations when we least expect it. Whether it's us being around the campfire, in the car, walking in the woods, and especially when we get into a rhythm, I really felt like we all have really just awesome, productive, pragmatic discussions on this topic, and I really think that a podcast is just a way of us being able to bring that quality conversation to other viewers, just to have just to kind of like deflect our ideas, our philosophies on the stuff off them. So that's kind of one of my big takeaways.
Charlie, I know you were right behind Mike when we were going to do this. When you guys were recommending doing a podcast, and now you've heard Mike's, and I don't want to hear you say, well, exactly what Mike said. Well, Charlie, what do you want to get on this, buddy?
Wait, I always want to learn. You know what I mean? So obviously the guests we have lined up, to learn from that. But even with our conversations with our meetings, our weekly meetings, we can be we have fun. You know what I mean? We're entertaining. We make each other laugh. So I think if we can portray that out to everyone else, and then also learn from the different guests we have on, whether it's they're pro Bigfoot or they're skeptic of Bigfoot or, Dogman or whatever. I think it's just a good, like I said before, I'm going to repeat myself, a great opportunity to learn and have fun.
Oh man, I think we need a thank you meter somewhere on the show. So every time Charlie says thank you, we get a little pop thing down that says it's number 17 from the show. Sean, you do a lot of paranormal stuff with the Central Pennsylvania Investigators, which is a group that Sean's run for a while. Do you think you're going to be able to hang in there with us, dude, and do nothing but Bigfoot? I mean, Bigfoot can be pretty fucking weird sometimes, but you think you can hang in there and just do Bigfoot?
Oh, I'm certain I can. I can certainly do just Bigfoot for a while.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of. Sorry, go ahead.
With you guys. You guys are great people. I enjoy hanging out with you guys. I'm very lucky to get to have met you guys.
Cool.
If I can interject, Sean's the good luck charm, and whenever he goes out, he always gets either a knock or a howl or something.
I do have amazing luck in that regards, actually, considering.
So it's a natural for you, Sean.
Like a rabbit's foot.
Yes.
So I wanted to cover one of the first things I wanted to cover on this thing is, there's with the state of squatching or all the things that's going on with Bigfoot, since the internet, since Facebook has become a beast when it comes to Bigfoot, but really there's very little Bigfoot research being done via Facebook. It's more like a networking site, which is fine. There's a lot of different schools of thought with Bigfoot, and I'd like to go through a couple of them and see where you guys stand, and see, because what we're going to do here is we're not going to just say, we think Bigfoot's a big monkey boy, or we think Bigfoot came out of the spaceship. We're going to present every side of the story, all camps, because I think all camps need to have a fair shake, because until somebody either slabs a Bigfoot on a table or drags it into a university or provides 150% proof, all bets are off, because the thing could be any one of these camps. So no school of thought is righter than the other at this moment in the game. Am I correct here?
I agree with that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we'll start with probably the most popular one, and I'll direct this one towards Mike. I think Mike will throw the first fastball your way, and that's the flesh and blood hypotheses. I know you do a lot of that. You go a lot on the expeditions with the BFRO when you're not out with us, or you've been to a couple of them. If you want to why don't you walk us through the pros and cons of something like the Bigfoot flesh and blood hypotheses?
For me, it's probably the most likely and most logical theory to follow, in my opinion, when it comes to analyzing these creatures. I'm not out there to say that they are or aren't real. I personally haven't made up my mind about that yet, but I really think for the most part what we're dealing with is a flesh and blood organic creature. So in that regard, I really think that's the biggest upside. I think if this thing is out there, those people are probably on the best path. I guess the biggest downside to it is it's just pure speculation. Like everything we think we know about these creatures is literally speculation on our part. So while there are a lot of, self-proclaimed researchers and experts out there, and it's not taking away from the tremendous amount of work and contributions they made in the field, but really when it boils down to it, nothing is really encased in fact about these creatures. So in essence, one person really doesn't know any better than the other. So I think, so really, if you think about it, a lot of the stuff out there about these creatures is, ultimately and technically subjective. And I think a lot of people in that field who support that theory are really using, they're not so much using the quality of the theories as much are they relying on the popularity or how well known their theories are to move forward in that field.
Yeah, I agree. I think of all the groups, I think the flesh and blood group pounds their chests the hardest and stands on the tallest chair in the classroom and demands the most attention because we're coming from a side of science that we must be right, and honestly, there's nothing really has come out of that camp outside the P&G film that's been that great. And these are all, first of all, we should have done a disclaimer before we started this because these are all just our opinions. We're going to provide all the facts. Please don't take any of this personally. We're just presenting certain schools of thought. So I don't want to see the flesh and blood people getting all pissed off right now, and then the other people getting all pissed off when we get to them. It's just, we're just stating some facts, and these are just our opinions. But really, not a whole lot's been done on an amazing documentary field since the 70s and 80s when there were some really good pieces of work coming out. You had John Green. If John Green, Renee DeHindian, Grover Krantz, and Binder Nagel couldn't find and document Sasquatch, I have a hard time believing that 4 idiots running around on Discovery Channel Plus are going to find the fucking thing somewhere in Kentucky. I really don't think it's going to happen, or it's not that simple.
Tell us how you really feel.
That's just my opinion. If you look at those guys, were giants of the scientific method and of the research that they did, and the fields of works and the books they wrote. But if tell me, Charlie, if you think I'm wrong, I'd love to know what has been done, what's been bigger than P&G.
Great, and even one of the guests that we're going to have on, his project over on Bluff Creek, he's kind of going away from Bigfoot and actually just going into the species that are in the area, like wildlife's in the area and and endangered species that are in the area. So, but I agree with you on the point with the 4 people in the show. But as far as what Mike was saying, I tend to lean towards the flesh and blood side of it as well. Until someone proves me wrong, or until a UFO drops one in my front yard.
Well, somebody would have to prove you right too.
Well, to prove me right. Yeah.
But just to follow up on your comments, Brendan, regarding the tremendous breakthroughs in the 70s and how nothing's really come to light now. I think one of the biggest issues in the field right now is it's just become so muddied, so clouded with hoaxes and misidentifications. It's gone from the point where you could take evidence on a case by the consensus of the public we'll take evidence on a case-by-case basis. It went from that. It went from, then it went from not knowing, not even knowing what's real or what isn't anymore, to just outright not taking it seriously. Now, we know there's countless photos, videos, audio out there. Me personally, I'd say probably between 95 to 97% of it, and that's probably being generous, are either hoaxes or misidentifications. And I just really think people aren't probably willing or able, or don't see the value in just sifting through all those new videos, audio clips, photos, and going through that time differentiating what's real and what isn't for something that probably in their mind has less than 1% chance of actually being actual, let alone having any evidence go out of it.
Right. I mean, you make a good point. That's funny that you brought that up, because that's actually our next group is the Red Circle, Red Army clickbait group, which are the hoaxers, which are the people that everything is Bigfoot. Every circle, every fuzzy leaf, the people that they're really cluttering the work, the research that's trying to be done, and muddying the waters. That's a perfect way to put it, Mike. There's a lot of that out there, and that's a group that's the second group that we're talking about now is what I call, and these are just loose terms, is the Red Circle Army clickbait group, where everything is the evidence is so shoddy and so out of focus that it's just really not credible. And those people are really just there to collect views and likes, the views on YouTube and the likes on Facebook. And there's absolutely really no serious discussions taking place. Now, I'm not saying that if you're into that and you want to do that, and that's fine, but you can't really call that Bigfoot research, Sean, can you?
I would say no. It's when, I don't know, I guess I'm somewhat drawing a blank, but anyway, not everything, it's just like the paranormal. I do the paranormal, obviously, but not everything's paranormal. So not everything's going to be Bigfoot. You have to really think of things, analyze everything, and that's what I do for that. And the same for Bigfoot. You can't just automatically assume. You got to think, could it be this, or this? And a lot of times it can be something else.
So my thing is, a lot of people who fall into that group, where who fall into that group, the clickbaity, a lot of people who post that content, they have that mentality that literally everything is that creature when they're out there in the field. What do you think? How do I describe this? How would you guys maybe describe just the mentality of those people when whether it's going out in the field, what they look for, what they perceive?
Well, do you think? Let me ask you a question real quick before we answer that. How far into the field? Because first of all, you don't need to go far to investigate Bigfoot. You don't need to go into the wilds, into the deep, because a lot of people claim to see the creature right on the side of the road, or there's a lot of road crossing. So you don't need to physically go into the woods. But I mean, do you think a lot of those people do research, or do you think they're just posting pictures and sharing pictures that they may have found online?
I think some people out there are literally so convinced that they could catch these creatures just by walking through like said trail, or any perceived quote territory, just by filming one video, that they that's literally what they do. Like, they just take it for, they take it for granted that they'll just walk around with a camera on a trail or state park, private property, wherever they go for an X amount of minutes, and then when they review the video, you have some clips that they have 4 or 5, what do you call, blob swatches or whatever, in one frame. It's like you look at this, you look at the stuff. It's just like, what am I? Sometimes I'm sitting there just like, what am I watching?
Yeah, but I think a lot of people obviously enjoy that type of it. I guess we can call it entertainment, because I don't really think and again, this is me personally, I'm playing the black sheep here, is I don't think anybody really takes that as dedicated research. I don't think any other camp would take that as dedicated research, but it does fill a niche, because there's a hell of a lot of people out there on the internet, and we're just talking about internet camps here now. We're not talking about a real live groups that go out and do a lot of so this is just a separate school of thought when it comes to the Bigfoot phenomenon, or the anomaly. is I think the people just they look for the thumbs up, or they look for the view, and that's enough for them. I think that really is enough for them, or a vast majority of them. What do you think, Charlie?
There's a lot of people out there that they like to scam people, and they like to get over on people, and I think those are the people that are doing these red circles and these blob squatches. But there is a lot of people who are boots on the ground. Like when we do our expeditions, and we're out there in the middle of the woods, and you get this heightened sense of like, just you think something's out there. So maybe some of the people are like that, and they're hoping that what they took a picture of is something, because they heard a snap of a branch, or they heard a rock clack or a howl or something like that, and they quickly took a picture. But like, for the most part, I think a lot of it's just people just trying to get attention and trying to get their likes up.
Right, and sorry, real quick, Mike. Is I think there's a difference between collecting evidence and collecting and posting everything that you found in the woods. I mean, just using us as an example, we only were out there as a group for one season. We collected a huge amount of footage. None of it, which will see the light of day as far as any type of Bigfoot activity, except for maybe one or two instances with the Sugar Run Howlands, maybe a couple other things. But we as a team didn't feel the need to seek that affirmation from other people by putting other things and saying, I don't know what could this be? Let's leave it to, obviously it's not anything to do with seeking the creature a picture or a boot print or a bunch of leaves that doesn't look anything like, we're not asking for that affirmation. And I think that's okay for us, but some people feel the need to do that. And I don't think it's wrong. I think it's inappropriate to label it as research. I think it's more of like a Bigfoot fan club, really.
Yeah,
I think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just saying, but a lot of Bigfoot research is just spending a lot of time in the woods and doing nothing but sitting there quietly. You know what I mean?
Right,
except for Mike, who's fording streams and stuff like that. But for the most part, Bigfooting is kind of boring. You know what I mean? So they're not really going to be able to sell Bigfooting if you're just going to watch us sitting there listening for stuff.
No, but we're talking about, but we're going through the different schools of thought here. We had the flesh and blood that we're talking about, that we're trying to get into the heads of all these people out there, because obviously until one is dragged in, until the science, either science proves it or never, shit or get off the pot. Any one of these things could be correct. Who knows? It could be a camouflage. Freaking, there a lot of people talk about a cloaking. So maybe that's the paranormal. We'll get into the paranormal side of it. But Sean, you had something to say real quick there. I didn't mean to not say it real quick, but you had something to say there.
Oh yes. Sometimes I think people want something so badly that they want to make it evidence in their own mind, and that's why when they go places. That's a big part of it. Why it's all Bigfoot. Sorry, I probably should have said that a little bit earlier, but
all Bigfoot all the time. Is that what you're saying, Sean?
Absolutely.
That's what you'd have, a fucking shirt that says "all Bigfoot all the time." Sean Wagner.
That'd be a cool shirt.
I think the popular term for it's Bigfoot on the brain.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Moving right along, so we'll probably go to this. I would say second in popularity. To the flesh and blood guys is the woo, the paranormal, the UFO, Bigfoots, the orbs, the mind speak, the gifting, and those interactions. Those people that claim that they can hear Bigfoot and they can sense he spoke to me. Les Stroud actually was quoted in one of his Survivor Man episodes that he felt, and I don't think he directly attributed it to Bigfoot, but it was during one of his episodes where he said he felt a voice, or heard a voice in his head that clearly wasn't his own, and it spoke to him very loudly that said, "If you want to see us, you have to stay the night." And I mean, I don't know him personally, but he seems like a pretty grounded guy. He seems like a pretty legit guy as an outdoorsman, for sure. So is there something to this? I mean, Sean, is there something to this mind speak and this paranormal side that a lot of people say that Bigfoot has?
Well, my opinion on is that it's flesh and blood. I think that I'm open-minded to it. I don't really know a whole lot about I haven't gotten to study into it on the paranormal side, unfortunately. My position is that, like I said, it's that flesh and blood, because they make all kinds of calls, they bang things. I just don't think if you're an entity that's not living or disembodied, how can you do that? That's my general philosophy.
I really think at this point the paranormal angle, a lot of the philosophy from the paranormal angle, I really think derived from how ancient primitive civilizations, like primitive Native American tribes, primitive tribes from around the world, that all have a creature in their culture that pretty much all have the same description as what we're talking about. I really think it's like the supernatural powers and whatnot that they claim to possess really derive from those stories. I think in modern times, these type of people who really buy into the paranormal, supernatural aspect of it, I really think they buy into this category because it kind of gives them a bit of a outlet or a free pass to that prevents them from really pragmatically or objectively explaining some of the really hard technical nitty-gritty aspects about these creatures that skeptics like to commonly challenge. Like, does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. But it's I'm reading right now. I'm reading Tim Renner's new book, Where the Footprints End. I think it's the first volume, and it's actually a really, really good book. And to tell you the truth, I've read Tom Powell's The Locals, and obviously Ron Moorhead's Quantum Bigfoot. I actually just ordered. There's a lot of people out there, and a lot of smart people with a lot of good stories to tell. I mean, I'm actually leaning less flesh and blood than I was before. If you guys the three of you can actually believe it. And I'm actually leaning more. I'm not saying I'm going paranormal because I still don't know if the thing freaking exists, but I'm actually leaning more towards that. But then again, it's just maybe because I'm reading the book. But there's a lot of questions, right? I mean, the thing, there's a lot of stories. There's just as many paranormal stories, witnesses accounts, I think, than flesh and blood accounts. I think there has to be, because there's a lot of stories out there, a lot of witnesses of people saying that they saw the thing and they followed the footprints and the footprints disappeared and they saw orbs and they heard this and they heard that. Those people have just as much a right to be heard as the flesh and blood people, because neither one of them have provided any type of evidence that's convincing, right?
Definitely, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a good book. I'm hoping to get Tim on the show. Tim, if you're out there listening to it, why don't you come on the show? But I just got the book, and I say I'm pleasantly impressed with a lot of the accounts, because there's a lot of different shit going on. I mean, really, now that's not to be that we're not just poking fun and saying there's not a lot of good work being done. There's a lot of amazing work being done out there, and a lot of it is get posted to the internet, and that's fine. There's a lot of open share groups and open people that share their evidence and stuff like that. And like the Olympic Project, David Ellis and those guys up there. I don't know if you guys follow Justin Chernopetsky, I think, or Chernopetsky. He Mountain Beast Mysteries. He has a channel on YouTube, and he goes out and he's up in Canada, and he does a lot of research. He films it. I think he's a lot by himself. He's in the same area as Todd Standing, but different school of thought. So there's a lot of serious work being done that's also being posted to the internet. So I think the internet is good and bad. Another group that's great, that's actually leading into our next topic is the North American Wood Ape Conservancy guys, Scott Pruitt and the guys down in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and those guys are doing great work. I mean, those guys are up in the mountains of southeastern Oklahoma when it's like 98 degrees, 90% humidity, and those guys are out there for weeks at a time. And speaking of Oklahoma, I think, it's big in the news. I think it was maybe the last week and a half was that big, that deal that's going down with this guy, Justin Humphrey. This guy, I think representative from Oklahoma, the state representative Justin Humphrey filed legislation last week to establish what he hopes to be a boon for local tourism, a Bigfoot hunting season. What do you guys think of that?
Disaster waiting to happen.
And here's why I'm going to have to agree with you, Charlie, because it's already happened. It's already happened in Oklahoma. In 2013, 3 people were arrested and one was shot in Rogers County, Oklahoma, which is in east northeast Oklahoma. It's about right outside of Tulsa. It's like in between the Cherokee Nation and Tulsa, Oklahoma. But basically, 2 guys were looking for Bigfoot in the woods of Rogers County. One of them claimed that they heard a barking noise and, in an apparent knee-jerk reaction, shot his friend with his gun because apparently he was packing heat. Now, it turned out 3 people got arrested. The first one was obviously the shooter. And literally the police said all these people got arrested because they didn't tell the truth originally. I believe the shooter's wife said, corroborated these guys' initial claim that someone else, a third party, shot, the dude who got shot. And then to make matters worse, the father-in-law of the shooter was a convicted felon, wasn't comfortable having the gun in his property, and threw it in the pond. So they got charged with reckless use of a handgun, disposing of evidence, a felon possession of a handgun, just a whole sopping mess. But circling back to my original point, though, this is definitely one of my bigger concerns when I first heard about this bill. It's happened before in Oklahoma. I'm sure when they actually discuss this or try to vote on it, they're going to bring this up and take it into consideration, which is why I ultimately don't think it's going to pass. But it has happened before, and if such a bill like this came to fruition, even though the bill specifically says it's only intended for trapping, catch, and release, I just feel like more incidents like that are going to be inevitable.
Yeah. Who says
that?
that?
On snares and people falling into 8-foot ditches, not be able to get out of them.
And the thing is, there's going to be some dickface out there who's just going to read the bill, see the bill for face value as is. He's not going to look into all of these important minor details, how it's only trapping, catch, and release. Someone's going to be going in there strapped to the teeth. And probably looking to shoot at, anything that moves.
Yeah, it was so House Bill 1648 would direct the Oklahoma Wildlife Conservation Division to establish an annual dates for the season and to create any necessary specific hunting licenses and fees. Tourism is one of the biggest attractions we have in the district, the rep says, Justin Humphrey. Establishing an actual hunting season and issuing licenses for people who want to hunt Bigfoot. Now he's using hunt, he's not using trap. Will just draw more people to our already beautiful part of the state. It will be a great way for people to enjoy our area and have some fun. A lot of people don't believe in Bigfoot, but a lot of people do. Sean, what do you think of that, buddy? I know you've been doing some research on the North American wood ape guys. That's their neck of the woods down there.
Yeah, they believe in that to prove it, you have to have one. A corpse of one.
Yeah, and that's what I believe. The same thing.
and you know what? That's reality. I mean, you can have hair samples that they don't know what it belonged to or know. It belongs to something that's undocumented, but the undocumented animal could be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be Bigfoot. And this is the only way to truly have definitive proof. I don't really like the idea myself of shooting one, but that would be the only true way to do it that I could think of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, and this is again in my opinion, the disclaimer, and I'm sure I'm going to get hate mail after this, is Bigfoot. I don't think Bigfoot will never be proven by anybody or any group that's not willing to pull the trigger and kill the thing. It's just, I don't think it's going to happen. I think science constantly demands a specimen, unless somebody shoots it, hits it with a truck. I don't think it's going to happen. And I mean, Dr. Grover, I think Grover Krantz was one of, I think he's, if I can paraphrase, science demands a corpse. And even if you had a corpse, you'd still have to drag the damn thing university to university and shove it underneath professors and scientists' face to prove the thing. Maybe Justin Smea was right, dude, to pull the trigger, whether he did or not. But I mean, what's your take on that, Charlie?
Well, I agree with you about having the corpse, but I would rather have it be hit by a truck than someone going out and shooting it. I mean, if they do exist, obviously there's not that many of them around, so you should probably treat it like an endangered species and so forth. But like you said, you need a corpse to do the scientific stuff on it. I'm still not really in that state of mind yet to shoot, unless it's coming to attack you, Brendan, in the camp, and you have your shotgun there. And I don't think myself, I shoot that. If I'm saving you, Brendan, then you know what? Then it's yes.
Well, I mean, like you made a good point. You made a really good point, Charlie. Is you want to treat it like an endangered species, right? So it's what Nixon's 1973 Endangered Species Act. That thing has been pretty much gutted since it first came out in the 70s. I think even Trump had his a couple of years ago, the Us Extinction Plan, which pretty much the new rules, that's hard to say, would be that all the occupied areas that are designated for critical habitats, all the current occupied areas would have to be designated as critical habitats before any unoccupied areas can be considered. So if Sasquatch is proven real and it lives in the Wachia Mountains, or however you pronounce that, down there in southeast Oklahoma, they're not going to be able to designate that as a critical habitat, because of what's happening to the Endangered Species Act. It's tough because I think even I know a lot of people are like, well, it was Trump's administration, blah blah blah, but I mean, even though the Obama administration made it much difficult for the public to petition, for people to petition for creatures to be put on the Endangered Species Act, so habitats are going away left and right around the world. So if the thing is out there, I think it's more important to take a sample to get the thing and get it verified so that they can start protecting it. So it's you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, right, Mike? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I know. I think too, like that. Just you're pretty much going down a whole other rabbit hole with needs verification, things like that. You're definitely going to come into contact with those loonies who think like it's a government cover-up. People have killed it, but they've been visited by men in black who've confiscated anything. I'm personally kind of on the fence about stories like that, but it kind of like sheds light on like a potential ramification of that. Like if this thing winds up getting proven to be true, what are the ramifications of that going to be? Like think about just like the national global hysteria that would ensue. Like you'll have probably people with guns, flashlights, just droves of people going into the woods trying to catch one of these things, get a sighting of one of them, kill one of them. That's one of the things I'm thinking about with this Oklahoma bill. Like what if you have like a wave of people coming from all across the country who take it super seriously, and I'd imagine they're gonna have a cap on how many permits they issue, but I still don't think that won't deter people if something like this goes into effect. Like what if the woods wind up getting filled with like tens of dozens of people trying to find this thing? It's like one of those. It's where like every like couple hundred so square feet you're gonna have someone with their trap set up.
Here's the thing. Here's my question: is as it stands, I think last year bow season in Oklahoma is October 1st through January 15th. A muzzleloader is the 24th of October till the 1st or 2nd of November, and then you have modern gun season, which is the 3rd week in November till the 1st week of December, right? And they're planning on having this so-called Bigfoot season tentatively start November 1st. So yeah, you're right. There's gonna be a lot of people already in the woods. There's gonna be a lot of hunters already in the woods, and then on top of that, you're gonna have Mom and Marge and Uncle Henry with their Bigfoot permits and their Prius pulling up and getting out there with their camera trying to find the thing. honestly, it's. I think there was a quote here. It says, "Having a license and a tag." Again, this is Justin Humphrey. Having a license and a tag would give people a way to provide to prove they participated in the hunt. Again, the overall goal is to get people out into our area and enjoy natural beauty and to have a great time. And if they find Bigfoot along the way, well, hell, that's just an even bigger prize. And I think they're putting up $25K for this, right?
Man, yeah.
There are two noteworthy details, though, worth mentioning. It really seems like a lot of encounters of this creature either occur via road crossings or by hunters. And then, the second major detail, like, I'm sure it's obvious by now, but eastern, especially southeast Oklahoma, it's actually a bit of a hot spot. People think of Oklahoma, they just think of like, farmland, plains, tornadoes. A lot of eastern Oklahoma, especially that southeast corner, it's actually very green, very hilly, very mountainous. I mean, they have alligators in southeast Oklahoma. That's just, how different that part of the state is, from the rest of the state that, people widely perceive when they think of that area.
The American alligator was on the endangered species list. It was. A little known fact. The things you learn with the amount of reading you have to do to put on a goddamn podcast super chat show, I'm buying books again, man. I tell you.
Well, Sean, alligator.
Sean, you've been we were talking about the North American wood ape conservancy guys. That's their neck of the woods, right? You have anything to report on what they have to do down there as far as the territory goes?
Yes. They are in southeastern Oklahoma. I did a little bit of research on some of the stuff there. They spent about they've had about 49 sightings in 3 years. They have also hold on here. I'm not going through my notes very well like I should. Excuse me in that regards, everybody. But they also had two groups. One group, they alternated for about 3 months. And they made, actually the 1 year, they had some really good stuff. And one interesting thing they verified also, I shouldn't say verified. They did some research on even wood knocks, for example. And they actually had one of their sightings after a wood knock. So they actually believe that the wood knocks could legitimately be from Bigfoot, of all things, ironically.
They have video footage, or do they have audio footage, or what are they claiming to have?
Well, they don't have either. They had a sighting. They had a sighting of a Bigfoot right after they heard a wood knock, right in the area where it emanated from.
Yeah, they have a podcast. I don't know if they're actively doing it now, but it was Apes Among Us. I think it was a really freaking good podcast. I listened to some of it, and I can't remember for the life of me the guy's name that was on that. Scott Pruitt, I think was his name. He was one of the hosts on it, and they were talking about where they would take radio transponders or transcoders. They put them in like little burrs, and they would and they had one that literally. They put it at Sasquatch height, or recommended Sasquatch height. I don't know what that is. Is that 7 to 9 feet? And somehow this burr went over 2 or 3. I'd love to get the guys on to tell the story because they tell it much better than I do. Is they had the radio transponder was going up and down these ridge lines, at a really quick pace, and they couldn't explain. They couldn't get visual confirmation on the thing, but they couldn't explain for the hell of it how that thing was moving as fast as it would. Moving unless, of course, it was attached to a Bigfoot. So there are smart guys in the woods in Oklahoma, in southeast Oklahoma, much smarter than a lot of the people that'll be out there doing the sightseeing with the licenses. And I think it is a recipe for disaster because there is a lot of hunting being done there. It's not the plain state like Kansas and parts of Missouri, like Mike was saying. So we'll see. I mean, what do you guys you think? What's his name over there? Micah Holmes, who's the Department of Wildlife Conservation. He obviously doesn't believe in Bigfoot. It's his department's job to issue this license if it does pass. What do you think? What do you think he's thinking right now, there, Charlie?
He's like, oh, the paperwork and the liability. Yeah, I mean, how you gonna like you have to figure out what kind of traps people are building, what they're gonna do with the traps after the season's done. I mean, there's so many like different things you got to think about. Capturing, trapping a live Bigfoot. Well, the thing's got to be, what are you gonna do with the 8-foot hole when you're done with it? You're gonna fill it back in. You're gonna, it's, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be in this guy's shoes.
If you're using a snare, what kind of material gets approved or what doesn't, what's safe for the environment, what isn't.
Yeah, how many times you go back and check your snare? You have some guy hanging in a tree for like 3 weeks, because you didn't go back and check your snare.
Overall, the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation seems relatively dismissive of the entire ordeal. They pretty much said that we use science-driven research, to make our determinations, and right now we don't recognize Bigfoot because
they don't.
There isn't any science. There isn't any. What we constitute as science-driven research. They did note too, like we were just talking about, the bill's going to create a whole new season, a whole new license, a whole new slew of like nitpicky regulations, and they all say for a creature that doesn't exist. The other thing too is that $25,000 bounty. I'm sure some of the more fiscally driven individuals that would get a say in determining that and allocating that money are probably going to think what better, there's so many other uses like public taxpayer money could go towards right now, or, however they get their money, publicly funded money, $25,000 could go towards right now than, setting aside as a bounty for a Bigfoot.
Now, do you really think somebody's going to collect that bounty, Mike? I mean, seriously, I think there's going to be like the Acme Wile E. Coyote kit for trapping is going to be out there. I don't think anybody's going to be cashing that check. But yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous. The other thing that is, I think that Humphrey sits on the committee for rural development, I think it is, or Oklahoma's Agricultural and Rural Development Committee. And what's funny about that is he also sits on the Public Safety Committee. So it sounds like the two are at odds there with that. I'd love to know if anybody has any thoughts. If anybody's watching the show and has any thoughts, hit that super chat and let's and hit us up and shoot a question this way. This is a super chat show. And by hitting the super chat and sending the message, it not only supports the channel, it supports the show. It supports us with our expeditions coming up in the spring. And so if you got something, hit it up. This is show number 1, so we're not expecting much. I think the over and under we were thinking is maybe 4 or 5 people would watch the show. So Mike, if you have any questions that pop up, let us know.
Yeah, for sure. It says we have about 24 watching right now, which is pretty solid. Going through the chat right now, I'll let you know if I see anything.
Yeah. So back to this whole hunting thing. We were talking about the Endangered Species Act, and it's been since it came out in '73. It actually has been dismantled pretty good. I think every year there's been more and more stuff, and like I said, the latest blow to it was the new thing that where I believe it is the changes would you'd have to consider economic impact to an area when you're considering a species as endangered. In the past, and I could be wrong, so if I am wrong, please let me know. You can hit us up at carcgroup@gmail.com or chime in here on the chat. Is in the past, I believe, if you're going to build a bridge, or where I live here, if you want to dredge the creek, you can't really do that because there's a certain type of fungus living there, or there's a certain type of fish or a little tree frog living there. Now, the way that the latest administration, because we don't talk politics, I won't mention any of the president's names, makes it possible to consider the economic impact of an area. So if they have to stop mining, I think there was a case where they had to stop logging because of a spotted tree owl. So now they consider economic repercussions before they just pull the plug on something, which I think is a little bit smarter. I do think this was in place. That same thing was in place up until 2016, and then it was changed or rolled back. I think since it's not like there hasn't been new discoveries. I think there's been like maybe 400 new species since the 90s, and I think of those 400, I think 50 have been primates. So there are stuff out there that exists. I think, they found a tree frog in Bolivia up in the mountains. Like, it's called the Lilliputian frog. The thing's like half the size of a dime. Half the size of a dime. And they just found that thing. So
did they just discover any species of orangutan like a week or two ago?
I'm not sure if it was an orangutan. I know there's been some lemurs that they've found in West Africa and the Amazon basin, and a lot of that is because these places with the new technology, places are getting a lot easier to find to get to. Tropical rainforests, the previously almost impossible places to access, are now opening up due to modernization and human expansion. I think the TT monkey is what you're talking about. I think, Mike, there's 4 types of the TT monkey were located somewhere in the Amazon basin.
Wasn't there something orange that was found?
I don't know. Was there? Did you?
I thought there was. I ran across in a picture. I thought something orange that looked like a monkey or something.
The TT monkey.
A bat. That was a bat.
Oh, that was a bat. I'm sorry.
Yes. That was from our Facebook group. Julie Reg posted that. So that wasn't any research. You just ran across that and you thought it was a monkey.
I just forgot what it was, unfortunately. Oh, well.
Mike, you're muted. Mike, you're muted.
Unmute yourself, Mike.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was actually going to say, so I was right and wrong. It was a new bat species with an orangutan hue that was discovered in West Africa.
Okay. So you were, okay. I get it. Yes. The orange bat, right?
Yeah, something like that. So it's pretty much a bat that just has like orangutan-like qualities. There are 2 noteworthy comments, though, I wanted to run by you guys.
Let us know. Hopefully it's not from my mom and dad.
Corey says, even with the hunting season, he's referring to Bigfoot, I'm assuming, is not going to make them any easier to find. And then Mark here a few minutes later says, there are people in Australia that think thylacine should have a hunting season, just to help prove that they exist. We will kill one or some. Regarding Mark's comment, if this bill, in the unlikely event this bill does wind up passing through, I really do think it's going to set a very bizarre precedent. Because who's to say other parts of the world aren't going to follow Oklahoma's lead, and pretty soon in New Jersey, we're going to see Jersey Devil hunting licenses. Vermont, you're going to see champ hunting licenses. Shoot champ with an RPG. Northern Minnesota, Wendigo hunting licenses. I could go on all night. Who's to say that type of precedent doesn't get started if a bill like this goes into force?
Well, I mean, what they could do is you could really just go to a gift shop, right, and buy a Bigfoot. I think I saw somewhere they had that Bigfoot permit, New Jersey Bigfoot hunting permit, that's a window sticker, right? So that's in essence really what they're doing. So if this does pass, which it probably won't, you could literally just not have the season and just sell the fucking bumper sticker and call it a day, right?
I suppose.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean,
That's my one.
Just to follow up on that first comment, though, do you really think it won't be? Do you really think it won't be easier or difficult to find if a bill like this passes? I'm probably going to go with the latter and saying, if anything, it'll make it more difficult to find, or probably outright drive them out of the area. If something like this happens, they start noticing, that pattern around that time of year. So I really would be surprised if, something like this winds up having ramifications that are more counterproductive to what it intends to do then.
Right. Well, there's I think the Kiamichi Mountains, there's a Hanobi Bigfoot Festival, which is the first week in October. And I think that's supposed to correlate with this. But I mean, they had that $10 million Bigfoot bounty challenge a couple of years ago, right? $10 million. And I think Todd Dusautel was involved with that to do the DNA research. That guy's a smart son of a bitch. And I like him because he's super skeptical and he's a New Yorker and he's brash and he's, we'd be good drinking buddies. But that was $10 million and nothing came of it. I don't think at the end of the day, this is going to put that many more people in the woods in southeastern Oklahoma at the end of the day. I could be wrong, Sean or Charlie or Mike. I mean, let's take a bet here. We'll talk numbers here. We talked about the guests, how many guests. When we circle back a year from now, right, and we're on show number 26, if we don't kill each other by then, how many licenses do you think, if it passes, the state of Oklahoma will issue in the first year? But we'll start with Sean.
I'm going to say I think it would be reasonably high. I'm going to say 1,000 because it's something odd. And near where I live, we had, like in the mid 80s, there was a scare of a Bigfoot out in the woods. And it was a kid dressed in a costume. But for no money, you had a lot of people going in the woods to try to hunt down the supposed Bigfoot.
And that was just from a sighting, from a newspaper sighting report.
Yes, it waved to people on the side of the road as they passed by.
You sure that wasn't Charlie? Charlie, how many do you think? How many do you think, Charlie? You're one. What do you think, Charlie?
I'm thinking that because of the novelty of it, it'll probably be like Sean said, 1,000. Maybe
No,
2,
you can't take that number. He already took that number.
2,000, and then if they sell for $25 a piece, what's it? You make up you get your bounty money right there, plus a little extra.
Okay,
So
you're saying 2,000? This is like card charts. You go higher, lower. That's why I was laughing, Sean. When you first started, Sean, I'm like, well, it's got to be a pretty high number. We talked to one out of 50 housewives. Out of 50 housewives, how many of them think their husband is a blank? One of those 70s shows. So we got Sean with 1,000. You got Charlie with 2,000. Mike, give me your best guesstimate of Bigfoot permits or licenses sold in Oklahoma the first year if the bill passes.
So in Oklahoma alone, there's over, I think, like 92,000 hunters that participate in a given fall. That's
it. 92,000.
Yeah. Well, their population is only like 620 something odd thousand. Okay. So that's almost like a fifth there.
Okay. All right. So go ahead.
If this does pass, it's going to go under the premise that this is something extremely rare, extremely elusive. I'm going to get kind of worried with my explanation. I think the number is going to be exceptionally lower, maybe between 50 and 100. So I'm going to say 100. I think it'll probably be like a lottery type system. The licenses are going to be
like moose up in Maine.
Yeah, or like Arizona does it with, or New Mexico does with their hunting system. And I think it's going to be one of those things where, it's going to have like a condition where if one gets caught, that's it for the, that's probably going to be it for the whole season or something like that.
That's it? Really?
Something like that.
So 100, that's all you're getting?
Probably 50 to 100, because I'd imagine there's going to be some type of scientific objectivity that's going to, just operating under the premise that this thing is real. If it goes into effect, they're going to go under the premise that this is an extremely rare, extremely elusive creature. Let's be real. If deer were an endangered species, do you think they would allow millions of people to still hunt them every year? The whole species would probably get wiped out.
I'm waiting for them to bring back humpback whale fishing season.
Oh,
I'm still waiting.
That's what I would say. For.
Yes, I'm going to guess. I'm going to say if it passes, they're going to sell 15,000. They're going to sell that many because they'll sell them everywhere. I don't think it's going to be taken as a real hunting thing. I think it's going to be a novelty, like the guy said. You buy it, it's going to be almost like a bumper sticker. I think I wish them luck if they want to raise the money and have people come to the state. I think Oklahoma is a beautiful state. I think I can speak that we've had a great first show. The time has flown by. Yeah. We've got parting comments here. Sean, anything to say before we get off the road here, or get off the air and onto the road?
Not really. Just that thank you, and good group of people, and thank you for watching, everybody that watched, and have a good night then, really.
Excellent. Mike, you got 15 seconds. Sum it up, show one. What you got, Mike?
I want to thank everyone for tuning in to listen. I really definitely encourage you to keep listening. Content's going to get better. Guests are going to get better. Keep an eye out for our stuff. Join our Facebook group. Subscribe. And definitely looking forward to tuning in the future.
What's the Facebook group there, Mike?
Catskill Appalachian Research Group, CARC, Research Collective, CARC.
There you go. Charlie, you got 15 seconds.
All right. Well, first of all, Brendon, you rocked it. Sean, Mike, great job. And they already said thank you a couple times, but I'm going to say thank you as well. And I had a great time. It was fun just talking with everyone, and I think it's going to be a good thing.
Excellent. So the next show we got Carter Bouchard coming in. He's going to be here on February 9th. He's a BFRO monster, or he was in the BFR for a while. He's a huge research guy. He's got a great book. We're going to talk about tree structures, what it really is like hunting down Bigfoot, and all sorts of things in the Midwest. Thanks for tuning in for the show, guys. Stay on the line. We'll talk after the show. Bill, you want to play us out?
Good night from behind tall trees. If you enjoyed the previous program, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and leave a comment.